没有走完的路不会是终点，故事的走向是自己选择的坚持。
这个故事的开头还算不错，相信过程，相信自己走过的路。
那些最激动人心的冒险，从来不是单枪匹马的挑战。
과거는 잊으세요. 내일이 새로운 시작입니다. 내 경기가 새로운 도전입니다.
我们愿意为胜利付出许多代价，改变只是其中之一。
어떤 사람이든 현재에 만족하지 않고 어떠한 사람이든 제자리 걸음을 하지 않는다.
过去的荣耀就存留在记忆中，这一抹红色要照亮未来。
Exciting as SMLZ with some really awesome kicks. The Rogue Warrior guys coming in with the branded merchandise and looking awesome as they get ready for it, while Mako is hard at work preparing with the rest of his team for this matchup. Welcome everyone, my name is Dom. Joining me here we've got Rusty and Raz. And guys, can we get shoes with our name on it?
Hell yes!
Cool, yeah, that's really awesome.
Producer, get us some slick shoes.
Wait, how would we show that on broadcast?
We don't need
How
to.
flexible are you guys? Can you kick your feet up onto the...
I'm not going to reveal that information live on air.
Okay, let's take a look at the standings so we know the stakes of the game that's about to happen behind us. Rogue Warriors versus Edward Gaming are in the West right now. It's 10-2 for Rogue Warriors in first place. Just behind them, EDG at 7-5.
Yeah, now we definitely have to start with the Western Conference, and the reason for that is it makes no sense when you compare the standings to the East. The East makes a lot of sense. You know, you've got your top three powerhouse, there's some separation. When you look at the Western Conference, Rogue Warriors are the only ones who stand alone on top. EDG at 7-5 in second, only one set away from Snake in third, and then you just go down the list. The separation is it's just non-existent.
A pure scramble. Only real team here that's made a difference during cross-conference play would be TOP getting in that extra win. Western Conference have been struggling, to say the least, when it comes up against the Eastern Conference.
Of course, the Eastern Conference, as we've said, already showing some strong distinctions. 11-1 for IG, 10-3, 10-2 for RNG and JD respectively. But taking a look at today's match, Rogue Warriors versus EDG. It's the one, it's the only. All eyes are going to be on it because it's first versus second.
Yep, the best of the West between both of them. And even though we're going through cross-conference play, remember we already had that discussion of it's these two teams going up against each other in a special occasion for us here today. And so, funny enough, EDG took them before going to Rift Rivals, 2-0, clean their clocks. It was easy as pie, and then it seems like it's going to be a different occasion now.
Yeah, definitely the case. I mean, a lot has changed since that time, Raz. 4 weeks later, definitely fair to say that the tides have turned between these two.
Oh, they absolutely have. And while we say that these are two top-of-the-table teams, times might be changing for EDG. Now, after the loss that they had yesterday against JD Gaming, EDG are at the end of a 3-match loss streak. To be clear, since this team has joined the LPL in 2014, this has never happened before. That's how good this organization has been. Of course, there are a couple of gray areas when you go back to 2015, 2014, when there were still the best of 2 running a tie system, but this is the first time ever Edward Gaming has been off of the back of 3 clear-cut match losses.
And remember, this usually happens during the spring split is when they start having their experimental sets, so that's usually when it's in their poorest occasions. It's a summer split. And oftentimes, back then, they could rely on their core members, their core playmakers, their clear love, experience in that front. Deft, you don't have to say much about that character. Now, new faces, new problems arising for this team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the difference between then and now is always going to be that experience. And the Deft factor is always something that we're going to have to talk about. Deft was the late-game team-fighting insurance for EDG. And whilst EDG still have got their strength specifically through the mid-game, the late game is the place you'd be looking at and saying, maybe there are some weaknesses now cropping up there.
So then let's get into that, because again, this is EDG. This is the winningest team in LPL history. And are we throwing up the red flags? Are we throwing up the klaxons? Is their time done? Are we ushering in someone new? And if not, why?
Look, the early game is still spectacular. When they went up against Invictus Gaming last time round, their early game was so much better than IG. That was surprising. A lot of the analysts going into that says IG is by far the best early game team, and they got smashed in the early portions of it. Remember, IG ended up taking it in 3 games anyways because it just comes down to team fights, and EDG still don't have that game.
But that says a lot, right? If EDG lost to IG by winning the early game and losing the late game, when Invictus Gaming are a team not a team-fighting team that's meant to be their weakness, that says a lot about the current state of EDG and their inability to actually hit those late-game team fights.
That being said, though, their opponents on the other side, they're bringing in some pretty strong veterans as we get a chance to see some of EDG's weaknesses in action in those team fights.
So we talked about experience when it came to EDG in the past. Right now you could see issues starting up with Haro. A few times there would be Ray coming in these team fights, and this is just one example of many. So remember, this has been a rougher week for this team if we're comparing going up against team fighting teams. BLG, JDG, all of them have top 4 team kill participation rates because they're team fighting teams, and if they're going up against EDG, a true weakness in their front. That's something they failed at, and that's a good example of it.
And you can see that they have the tendencies to go towards champions like, say, the Rakan. You know, something that can provide them an immediate engaged source, because without that, they may be looking even worse. So ultimately, Mako has not been having the worst split by any means. He's still finding a lot of good engages off. Ray playing things like the Mundo and the Ornn, also doing the same thing and finding those engages. And it's not necessarily those 2 members that I would be looking at if I was saying what are the problems with EDG. There are a couple of other things that seem to come in play here, and one of them actually being that Hope played in the last set instead of iBoy, and he was a lot of the weaknesses in those late-game team fights.
Of course, you contrast that with Rogue Warriors. On the other side, they're bringing in a lot of veterans outside of Kahlua. These are players who have been in the LPL for a very long time, and that initial crazy, chaotic, all-in style that was so signature of Rogue Warriors in spring now seems to be been solidified into something really terrifying, a very scary back-and-forth team that can pull out these massive team fights.
I actually think a lot of this comes down to refinement. Remember that this team had only formed in spring, so now they've had a full split to work together and really strut their stuff as a 5-man unit. And they're very cohesive now because in terms of strategical diversity, they know how to play every different lane. We've seen the 2 different styles of mid lane as well with Doinb. But at the end of the day, it's all SMLZ.
Yes, SMLZ is a player you can play around later on in the game. Remember, there are discussions about who's the best or the second best, in this case, AD carry. SMLZ is someone that Rogue Warriors can back fully. Remember when this team formed in Spring Split, they knew that there'd be time to grow, as you mentioned, and ultimately it would be a show between Doinb, SMLZ, and Doinb has, can go towards the support of mid laners as well, so there's real diversity when it comes to this team.
Yeah, we've seen some really awesome stuff out of Doinb and the rest of the team, but like you said, it's this back and forth for Rogue Warriors that makes their team fighting so scary, that experience.
When they're far ahead as a team, the experience really comes through from one player in particular, Mouse, coming in with flank opportunities time again. Remember, a former EDG member really making the identity known when it comes to RAW's team fighting. So from his point, incredibly well done to protect the side of Doinb and SMLC.
Yeah, definitely need to protect those carries, and that's the thing with Rogue Warriors. If they're ahead, nothing slows them down, nothing stops them. But even when they're behind, Raz, it does feel like they've got the capabilities to come back into the game. And if it's a miracle that is required, it's a miracle that Rogue Warriors will find themselves getting. And I think back to the RNG set where they stole 2 Barons in a row.
Yeah.
Neither of the steals from a smite.
And
It's
EDG
insane.
suffered the same thing just yesterday against JD. So there's plenty of capability for us to see some of these hero plays. But on our screen right now, you can see the players are on stage and ready to get into this matchup proper. As we run through the lineups, first up, it's EDG on the blue side with Ray, Haro, Scout, iBoy returning, and Mako.
Remember last time we saw iBoy, a tilted face when he was 7 kills, it's 6 minutes into it, but ultimately they lost anyways. Now going on to Rogue Warriors team, Mouse, Flawless, Doinb, SMLZ, and Killua. A lot of eyes are going to be right towards that bottom side of the map.
And you can't help but be excited to see SMLZ taking on iBoy. Just in terms of clashes between AD carries, they are the mechanical members of the team, and they are where a lot of the focus goes when you think of how the rest of the team
And we
plays.
just got to see the iBoy versus Jackie Love clash earlier this weekend, which gave us a sort of sneak preview. iBoy proved that he was better in lane than Jackie Love, even though EDG eventually ended up losing that set. Of course, you can't always raise the question, is that because Haro ganks bottom, or Ray always using the teleport down there, Scout roaming down there as well?
Is it because EDG always played a bottom?
Yeah, bottom-centric team.
It's funny enough, in that set against Invictus Gaming, that was Jackie Love and Battleline just dying 2v2.
Yeah.
So while we see that a lot from Jackie Love and Battleline, it showcases the strength that Mako and iBoy have so consistently. So it is you raised the proper question of it doesn't matter how far ahead iBoy and Mako is. Recently, they've just been losing anyways. And in due part to just some of the weird team fights coming out of iBoy. Last set we saw from him, it was just that he was so far ahead, but he was trigger happy. He just goes in no matter what. And so I want to see iBoy going up against SMLZ, someone who's actually incredibly patient when it comes to these team fights.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, team fighting for Rogue Warriors is always going to be a big deal. And it is interesting to note that the difference between both EDG AD carries right now is the opposite problem as well. iBoy perhaps a little bit too happy-go-lucky, jumps in a bit too aggressively. Haro, too frightened. Yeah. In his last set that we saw from him was using too many defensive things at once, expecting reactions from his opponents that never actually came about.
Yeah.
So both EDG options in the opposite ends of the spectrum as well, both causing their own small concerns.
And hopefully we'll get to see these players enabled on some very powerful champions as the meta has slowly been shifting back towards tanks and larger picks. We're getting some more of these extended team fights, which give more opportunities for hero plays. But I think our eyes need to be on this guy on your screen right here as Ray. He's going to have to do some serious work against Mouse up top.
You're right. And to hit on your earlier point about team fighting, remember the top 4 teams in terms of team kill participation, WE, not a good team right now. Rogue Warriors, a team they're facing currently, and of course I already made a mention of it, JDG and BLG follows, and those are the teams that EDG lost to. They have to flip the switch here today because it seems like if it's going down that same pattern, it looks like it's going to be a difficult set here.
Well, now we've gotten into that pick and ban. We'll absolutely see if EDG can turn it on because they are at the end or perhaps the beginning of something for a first in the franchise. A 3-match loss streak. This has never happened before the team. And now, this very well could go to 4 if Rogue Warriors continue their momentum. But already, you can see Camille locked in right away for EDG. That does give a very strong priority to that Tom Kent for Killua, which enables SMLZ to do whatever he wants.
Ultimately, no power picks up just because Nocturne was banned by EDG. Talia, Aatrox, and of course Zoe, a tried and true pick towards Scout. That just means that counter picks are going to be incredibly important on Rogue Warrior side. Already picking the safety of Tom Kench and Trundle, that just means that they can actually hold AD carry in second phase for SMLZ.
And you know, the one thing that really stands out to me at the moment from EDG as a positive thing in this draft so far is that they banned the Mundo away from Mouse. And when you look at the champions that Mouse has played in summer at the moment, Mundo is his #1 played by a country mile. 13 games currently on Mundo.
Yep.
The second most played champion is Gragas on 3. So already, regardless of what Mouse picks for himself, it's not in the comfort zone of a Dr. Mundo.
We'll see what Mouse is going to take into that top lane or if they're going to save counter pick for Doinb in the mid lane, as they're now looking at the Orianna and locking it in. Now, we've seen Orianna's flexed into the mid lane, but this is a classic Doinb pick. If it goes anywhere, it's likely going to be towards him.
And I think immediately what you see from Rogue Warriors composition is a lack of hard engage. So I want to see if the Rakan is something they look towards a little bit more in the bottom lane. I mean, not going to happen because there's a Tom Kench. That's where the real warrior is. It's going to be top lane specifically. So if he goes Gnar, then it means that Mouse does have to play incredibly well on the Gnar to find a proper engagement.
Yeah, I'd like an Ornn or something of the likes to be seen from Rogue Warriors on red side. So they've got the first pick here, being on the red side of the draft phase.
But take a look at that ban right there. The Kennen being stricken away means that Rogue Warriors might be looking for something a little bit safer in that top lane, knowing that that Mundo is taken. So
Kennen's one of the few champions that don't have a lot of counterplay to them, right? So with Mundo gone, with Kennen banned, Gnar does actually rise up in priority as a potential pick for Mouse. But I think along the same lines, Ornn can still be considered here. We'll have to see where he goes. Things like even Gragas actually get enabled by banning the Kennen.
And also, remember the composition EDG has right now. If the Kennen goes top lane, that's actually really insufferable to deal with the Shen ulti on top of him and the Camille ulti to just tag whoever's in there. SMLZ, remember Rogue Warriors last split religiously banned the Camille because Mouse didn't play it, and teams played it into Rogue Warriors so they could nail down SMLZ. It was a great counter strategy to the team, and it worked too often. So this time around, it seems like it's going to be left open, and Rogue Warriors will have to deal with it.
now we do see a Varus ban, second for Rogue Warriors, as they're trying to leave that top pool open just a bit. EDG have the chance to continue to pair away some more of Mouse's picks, but iBoy, with a bit of a grim smile, sees that champion banned away. And like you said, Raz, last time we saw iBoy, we saw a bit of a different face when he was able to snowball a lane, but still lost the game to his side lanes. Can he recover his mental state against a very cerebral and mental player in SMLZ?
And so much top focus through the ban so far, but AD carries completely left almost untouched besides that Varus. And with a Sivir ban and a Varus chosen to be banned by Rogue Warriors, they just lock themselves in misfortune.
That's insane. There's not a lot of setup for the Misfortune 2 in teamfight, so if they're ahead, yeah, sure, Trundle Pillar makes it easier for them to just lock down that one person. I want to see something, some form of hard engage from Rogue Warriors. We've been seeing a lot of Malphite as of late. If you pick a Malphite here, you need to know what lane you're going up against specifically. Right now, it seems like it's going to be the Camille. I'd lock it down so it makes it so Rogue Warriors can actually rely very heavily towards that level 6 mark.
This is super weird in the draft for me, honestly, as well. Choosing to go towards your AD carry, giving the counter pick towards top lane as well if you choose. Now, Trundle and any champion ganking top lane is very strong into Camille. Jax is something if you feel like playing a counter in lane that we've seen from some players. But at the end of the day, he gets to see what his opponent goes towards, and Camille is now going to be almost confirmed in the jungle, both can flex.
This is definitely a call out to Mouse, because when he's put in these situations, he won't go for the carry counter pick. So naturally, a few players in the league like Xiao will go towards the Jax pick. That's not who Mouse is in this situation. If he feels like he can style on somebody like Yugua, not going to happen here. He's going up against Ray, so locks down the Ornn. That is hard engage here and can set up the composition nicely.
Yeah, and even more than that, going up against his former team, Mouse, previously of Edward Gaming, made his professional debut as a support for EDG in 2015 spring, so only in 2018 has he taken steps. He's already completed the Revenge Tour in spring. Now this is just a chance for him to double up, pun intended.
And to be clear, my quarrels with Rogue Warriors draft was never the champions that they chose, it was the order with which they chose them, because there was an opportunity for EDG to take away the Ornn if they would choose as well. Now they've got the Gragas into the Ornn matchup. Rogue Warriors still get the composition that they're comfortable with in the end, which is very peculiar in the way they went about it.
And now that composition is something that we're going to get the chance to talk about, as it looks like they're stacking up. They've got Ornn for engage, Orianna Misfortune for stacking up massive AoE damage. And we talked about the team fight terror that is Rogue Warriors. Well, a 5-stack looking pretty scary, but EDG on the other side, they've got some hard engage that might be able to pick that 5-stack apart.
And this is a composition for EDG that they are very comfortable with. The semi-global compositions, they're not one Nocturne away from just finding pure comfort. So sure, Rise, and then towards the Shen as well, makes it so, honestly, EDG are not going to be looking towards their bottom lane. In fact, it's going to be Mako trying to help out top side of the map. A new face to EDG now, so they can play towards their carry and Ray.
Definitely a shift here from the Edward Gaming roster in terms of styles, and Ezreal very safe as a champion, so they're capable of doing that. But that's not to say that Rogue Warriors can't match that particular style in this one. When Atam Kench hits level 6, capable of roaming around the map, so matching that semi-global through the bottom lane, just the Shen can get there faster, and the Shen also provides a shield. So if you're looking to duel in lanes, Camille Shen is an example. If you find 2v2s in the jungle, very powerful.
100%. One thing that we do have to talk about is, while the coach are going to be going to the back, they have the strategy in mind. I feel like with specifically how poorly Rogue Warriors' bottom lane has been playing it, that if you're iBoy and Mako and you could just have a hard winning bottom side of the map just based off trades alone, strategy moves, Ray can TP to the bottom lane, that's how it could shape up.
And now. First versus second place in the West. Edward Gaming are taking on Rogue Warriors here in the Shanghai Arena as we load on to the Rift. Now it's about time to hear from the crowd and who they think is going to win this one.
Hey,
you gotta.
That's how you win
make
battles. That's how you win debates. You just get the
sneak in
last
at the
word.
end. Yeah. Whoever says the last thing wins when it comes to most verbal battles that you have with people. But of course, we're in the Shanghai Battle Arena here, and with the Rogue Warriors and EDG both being two of the most popular teams in the LPL, naturally we'll have a packed house.
And that's so surprising considering the Rogue Warriors, one of the newest organizations in the LPL, joining in 2018 spring, now already first in their conference over the winningest team in LPL history.
And I got to make a point of this because already we have a misfortune in our damn game.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that.
Comet is what she's picked up, ranked up E, has the Doran's ring as well.
I'll do you one better. Look at the Tom Kench's Keystone. And no, that is a
Fabulous.
hail of blades.
Oh boy.
Tom Kench down in that bottom lane. So, for the misfortune point that you mentioned, I actually thought that we might have seen a Dark Harvest demo. That's starting to rise in popularity. It's very strong and it has really good trade patterns that match how a misfortune likes to trade. So, in terms of keystones of choice, I thought that may be the other option. Of course, Comet, very good for maxing E, not for maxing E, for leveling E rather, and getting guaranteed poke down through the laning phase, where this Tom Kench pick, it's not quite the Glacial Augment spec, but if he gets onto you, you're pretty dead, because he's got attack speed.
Exactly, that's why I feel a little bit worried for Mako in this lane, because ultimately the slow coming off of Misfortune E, the follow-up from Tom Kench if he can get his Q across, you're almost committed to a fight here. It looks like, especially if you get one more Q, and obviously you're in level 1, but you get to a point in the laning phase where Tom Kench is someone you have to worry about, not the Misfortune.
But that's the thing, against a Shen, this is a very good keystone of choice. If he taunts you, you attack him so quickly, taunts can't actually save your life from a Tom Kench. It actually empowers the Tom Kench to take you down. So I really like that keystone choice, specifically in this matchup.
Perhaps Rogue Warriors preparing an anti-bottom lane strategy for Edward Gaming, knowing that they do have to prepare against this team, and showing us something new with this innovation. But elsewhere, we do see Doinby on his Comfort Orianna. We've got Mouse sitting happily on that Ornn into the top lane. What are we going to be looking at for this early game, fellas?
A lot of it comes down towards where Flawless ends up pathing, because on Rogue Warriors' side, they're actually going to be taking quite a long time with their composition. They should feel happy with the laning phase that they have, the range advantage mid lane, the Misfortune pushing up in the bottom lane, and top lane, sure, you'd look towards Ray versus Ornn. And Ornn would still have some push potential depending on if the jungle is on the top side of the map. So I would say Rogue Warriors, play it as slow as possible because the lanes favor you.
Yeah, definitely true. Of course, both junglers will be the biggest pivot points for the team's early game success. Haru having flash body slam is very capable of getting ganks off. And you have to think about what lane would he look at ganking. Ultimately for me, it is difficult to gank an Ornn lane, but the Camille so far with the current push is threatening his health bar. So it's always a possibility that you have to remember.
Oh man, you can see those Comet trades onto iBoy, even Killua walking up for a tongue lash. But like you said, there are pings top right now. Mouse less than half health and Hara waiting in the wings.
It's going to be difficult to coordinate. Here comes a massive wave, so here we go.
Alright, that's the tactical sweep. Body slam barrel. He's got flash, a double knockup, a flash at first blood. Mouse,
oh my
one
God.
turret attack, but Haro trades it back. Take a look at this. Flawless is on the prowl, just on the other side of the wall. Haro sees this.
He should be able to get out. It's a lot of CC or just slowing from the Gragas, but the best thing about that is not only does he get the kill on towards Ray, the flash on Haro as well, so he doesn't die off of that. It was very hard to be able to set up that fight, and remember Mouse hiding behind his tower, using his E for the double knockup, crucial. They're going to double down here, but remember, no flash on Gragas.
You have to double down on this. You got the first blood bonus for Mouse as well. He got that first kill. Haro definitely behind enemy lines. The gank is well and truly on here.
That's the slam ready. Barrel comes down. Mouse is going to try to get out of this, but hook shot to the terrain missed. And Mouse is going to walk it back to the turret with his life.
That was the kill. Ray through. Oh no, the hook shot goes backwards into the minion wave, doesn't hit the wall, and Mouse is able to walk away. Now he's still worse for wear. It does force a recall, but that could have been a kill.
Uh-oh, now Flawless has found Haro. Ooh, he's right there. That's the pillar. Like you said, there's no flash, no red buff either, so Haro holding on to the body slam, just walks closer to the train, and Flawless isn't even going to fight him over the scuttle.
He just doesn't have the top laner with him. Ornn was all the way back in base. Yeah. Otherwise, he would have doubled down. It's just fun to see. A lot of eyes are on Flawless in that situation. Whether he's going to get a CS advantage in jungle, this time he sets up for the play on towards Gragas. Gets a health advantage. I just want to see what Flawless ends up doing with it if he can press in now that Ornn's joined in lane.
And this is one of those fundamental things where Doinby is always out of mana when he lanes in League of Legends. Now he's got a CS advantage for himself, so that's the major thing that he always tries to forge through those lanes, and he's gone for the cleanse, not the teleport. So you'll find that Doinby, when he lanes in the early game, often out of mana and has to recall. So not only did Flawless not have a top laner, he didn't have a mid laner that could help. Scout had priority there through that TP. And that's just something that, you know, you'll see all of the time from Rogue Warriors that no one else really does.
Fairly standard for Rogue Warriors to play through that style. Already that push pressure has opened up a 15 CS advantage for Doinby and is now enabling Flawless to start contesting Haro. Remember, still no flash on that Gragas, and Orianna has now ticked over to 6.
And a lot of it is, let me help you, like help me. While I say that, Ray's about to get opened up on.
There we go, just using the Call of the Forge God for some trade damage.
And I make a point of that because Gragas, the best lane for him to gank is actually mid lane. Orianna is going to be pressing up, and you have the follow-up with Ryze. Even with the cleanse, you want to be able to burn at least some summoners to set up for the next gank. That being said, the fact that he's pushing up so religiously, and that Trundle can now track down Gragas at the Raptor camp, makes it so much easier for Doinby to lane up against Ryze, so he never has to worry for that game.
Or more specifically, leave lane against that Ryze, as Doinby's roaming bottom.
Once again, very good at leaving his lane. Haro's just missed that on vision.
Oh, that's the command attack. The wave is crashing in. 3 caster minions. The auto attack. Shadow dash, but he's outside of range. And the ignite. Oh! The flash shockwave on himself. Diving under the turret. Doinby finds himself the kill as Rogue Warriors bail out. Scout. Realm warps in, but Rogue Warriors already got what they came for.
That was so beautiful to watch. The flash coming through. Did not see it coming. Didn't expect it. Remember now he has to go back to lane without flash, but that's a proper trade-off. You get that dive across.
That's still a pretty picture painted there by Rogue Warriors. Tahm Kench eating him straight after when the turret aggro hits, and they are able to get themselves out pretty much untouched as an end result of that trade. And here's the thing, we're 7.5 minutes into the game, and I feel like Rogue Warriors have got this one pretty closely in the bag based off their early game success. And we're coming into the mid game, it's not going to be a sizable gold advantage just yet. But everything went their way through the early game because of misexecutions from EDG and Rogue Warriors consciously playing towards their strong side of the map. Starts with the jungler, ends with just strong counter dives from Mouse in the top lane.
And it's only going to get worse just because Ezreal very naturally having to build the tier now going up against a lethality user is just going to get rough within the laning phase. If the laning phase wasn't difficult before, it's only going to get harder just because he doesn't have the combat abilities.
Already it's a 16 CS advantage. Haro tries to invade and deny the red buff, just stalls it out for now as he's level 6 and Flawless is only level 5, but that Ray advantage in the top lane is starting to get a little bit bigger.
And I respect the reset there from Flawless as well. Doesn't take a smite battle because he doesn't have a smite. Ray, of course, being able to rotate does secure the buff, but Flawless doesn't take the battle, give over a free buff. It makes him spend a lot more time here, Haro, to secure the camp down, and that's time where Doinby is able to get his blue buff.
Rogue Warriors trying to play the tactical game through that winning lane in the mid and bottom, but EDG are forced to play through the top side, knowing that that is their only lane strength right now. 16 CS for Ray in the top lane, and he's about to get that teleport. Not to mention First Dragon is an ocean, so we might get a chance to see some skirmishing down there soon.
And I would expect for Flawless to be able to get there first. Now upgrading his rejuve bead into the Tiamat means that he can clear much faster than the Gragas can. Something to watch out for, because if Flawless can get to the Scuttle Crabs earlier, has the control over the objectives, it's going to be on Gragas to really set the pace for his team, but he's finding that more and more difficult as the time goes on.
I will say that's where a little bit of it has been made up for by Scout's choice of itemization as well. Rushes the Boots of Lucidity instead of going towards a more defensive or sturdy item. So goes for the tier as is standard, follows it with Boots, and that usually indicates that you're going to be getting around the map more often, using those summoner spells as best you can, and the ultimates to make some plays, and that'll help Haro out a lot.
That's usually how EDG ends up finding the early victories. Scout's been a lot more consistent this time around in the split, and a lot of it's been coming through in terms of the roams. Even his last Orianna game, going to the bottom side of the map, so he usually requires the push to be able to get himself out. He's being locked down in the mid lane, but the moment he finds one opportunity, now he has blue buff for himself, he ends up locking it down, so he can leave and help out the bottom lane.
Again, we do have to commend EDG for playing the early lane strategy that pushes well into their mid-game control. They just haven't quite had the opportunity to close out a series with that strategy if it goes to that late team fighting. That said, though, Rogue Warriors are denying that right now, so already EDG playing from the back foot just a bit, but that was the True Shot Barrage across 2 minion waves, the one that has just spawned. Might we see a little bit of movement out of the EDG bottom lane?
Makes you wonder what they would be moving towards here when their jungler and mid laner on the top side of the map, threatening Mouse's health bar. You can see he has to use the Ornn ult just to clear the wave, and whilst he does successfully, that is an ultimate expended, and a teleport going to be less effective from RW if they choose to make the plays.
And a lot of now challenges on Rogue Warriors is either speed up the play in the bottom lane so you can start trading this up, or be faster going top side. Obviously, the latter has not been chosen. It's going to be iBoy and Mako that are going to have to retreat in the bottom lane.
Looks like we're having a turret race. EDG send 2 members to Mouse. They dive. The Shockwave has found iBoy, but he buffers out with the Arcane Shift and will die to Doinby's command attack. But Mouse, once again left to the Wolves, nearly gets himself another kill onto Ray, but this is EDG pushing the turret.
You just see that Mouse is a veteran of getting dived. It just happens time again, and he's always making something up for it. In this case, it's going to be Scout that might have to base. He's going mid lane, but it's going to be hard if he matches up with Doinby. But end up being Rogue Warriors get the advantage, getting the kill on the iBoy and taking down the turret early.
Now, obviously, the mistake of Mouse is overextending himself in the top lane, but when you add some perspective and some context to this, Scout and Ray both had teleports. So if Rogue Warriors choose to make a dive in the bottom lane, there's a chance the immediate counter there from extra members was possible. So by having a fight on 2 different fronts there, Rogue Warriors ensure, if nothing else, they get the up-tempo trade, and Mouse has a tactical int.
I love that.
The tactical. Got to balance it out.
We'll say, though, that the difference between both these teams when they end up looking for trades is that Rogue Warriors have to hard commit to their own strategy. You know, in this meta, teleport is something you have to go towards quite often. It's going to be TP on towards SMLZ, but of course the play being happened bottom lane, he's not going to be able to defend top side.
And this is the up-tempo trade from EDG. First brick goes to RW, and they're able to take the dragon off the back. EDG answer with top turret, but then they also take the Rift Herald. Now, Rogue Warriors had vision of this. They had 3 members on that side of the map, and SMLZ and Mouse did have teleport, but still Rogue Warriors chose not to fight for this. That does put them back into a little bit more of a safer laning phase with SMLZ, though.
They're going to have to be reactive to the play. It's the natural point to them. And I think if there's one team in the league that you could trust to play reactively or try and look for flanks to stop the Rift Herald push from happening, it's going to be Rogue Warriors. So for EDG, the challenge is, yes, look for the mid lane tower take, but also get the defensive vision down so Ornn is not behind you and starts the fight. That's the problem, because now we're going to see a Misfortune ultimate that's going to rip you to shreds. So that's going to be on EDG to have eyes on Mouse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for what it's worth as well, Rogue Warriors, the play should be obvious for them to try and react towards. Mid lane outer turret is the one that you want to break, because you want to free up Scout on that rise to have an easier time. Remember that he's on the rise, chose the roaming items, and has a teleport. So as he crests over to 11, they can make more plays, EDG, around their mid laner, and so naturally that's the place where you want to summon the Herald to break the lane.
And as the game goes on, lane assignments just favor EDG. Double teleport, solo laners Rise, and Camille can be on side lanes. Camille works wonderfully versus the Ornn, that's obvious, but also Rise on side lanes makes it super difficult for Orianna to deal with. So I feel like at this point, if EDG can free up Rise, then it's going to be hard for Rogue Warriors to start to really place down vision that they require for these objective takes.
Well, currently that Rise is in the top lane, like you guys said, playing that side lane with the early boots. And we'll get some support from Haro just in case Rogue Warriors were setting up a fancy bait. But now most of that vision has expired around the mid lane for Rogue Warriors, and they're trying to take some control back so they can prepare for the inevitable Herald.
Yeah, so that's the big thing here, actually between both of the teams in the current state of the game, is the Rogue Warriors have got item spikes. And when you contrast that to their opponents, they're only just completing them now. So Archangel's finally done by Scout. He was sitting on components, so a big part of why he disappeared to the side lane, to make sure they're able to keep tempo and control in that middle lane throughout that time. So the play actually going to be placed in the bottom lane instead here by Haros. The rest of EDG have grouped up mid.
Rogue Warriors have to know what that means. That's actually freeing up Camille now. So what ends up happening is you get the extra wave push bottom lane. Mouse has to deal with that wave in a Rift Herald take, and you can have Camille now flanking through the mid lane. So if you're Rogue Warriors, either you commit and push Mouse towards the mid lane to stop that play from happening, but he loses waves bottom lane, or just find a creative way around it. Seems like Camille is, if she bases here, that's just going to be a waste of time.
It's going to get a charge
Mouse
off
is
here.
still sitting here. Oh, the eye actually closes just in time, but like you said, Haro will be there. The minion wave stalls it out. Realm Warp from Scout used his own and True Shot Barrage on the minion wave. Rogue Warriors trade one turret for one. Shelly did get a second charge, but there's Call of the Forge God onto the minion wave, and Mouse breaks it down. Ray and Haro are still under this turret,
They
though.
are tanking it.
Yeah, I'm not really happy with the use of the wave there. They had their full members straight towards mid. They actually could have just moved Gragas and Camille mid lane to start challenge the mid lane outer turret. Remember, 15 minutes in the game, that's 5 minutes away from Baron, so you can actually start accelerating the game. Not possible now because you use the wave to try and take down bot lane inner.
Yeah, one of those fairly non-committal things there from EDG overall. They'll take the damage. I think a good charge in the bottom lane's great. The health of that turret is very low now as well. At the end of the day, Scout was also looking towards top side with iBoy, who threw the ultimates down. They wanted to deter SMLZ and try and make it an upswing in the game's tempo. At the end of the day, they still have the potential for that with a stone's throw from another turret falling down. But it is Rogue Warriors who currently hold the gold lead.
Yeah, they're setting the pace for this. And EDG are the ones trying to reclaim that control as now Rogue Warriors group up. You can see Ray sitting in side lane with teleport, and so too is Scout, but just that poke and harass as the wave comes in.
And this is usually when a game tends to get a little bit messier because the Rift Herald is usually your key to the mid lane tower. Now it's going to be on these teams to try and engage to make that happen. Ray is really the only obvious engage tool, but he's going to be seen time and again. So it's going to be on, what, a Tahm Kench, a Trundle, maybe even a Gragas, you could say, on the opposite side for EDG to set the fight apart. And EDG would naturally not want to take the fight because compositionally, Rogue Warriors are really the team that looks to take a step forward.
Well, speaking of this Gragas, there's no vision that spots him out right now as he's behind Rogue Warriors, but he's too far away to engage. Rogue Warriors just ride the next minion wave in after EDG's wave clear and break it down without even needing to force the fight.
Ryze was just not in position taking the Krug, so it just makes sense for the Ezreal, Gragas, and Shen to not want to fight that. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, that and Ray, of course, being on the other side of the map. They take advantage here, Rogue Warriors. It's the sucker punch on their opponents before there's a chance to have any kind of counterplay. EDG, in their attempt to 1-3-1 currently, not by any means unsuccessful, but it is a slow ramp-up style where an opponent team can group on you immediately and try and make the plays happen.
I will say, though, they're probably a little upset about the map RNG. Infernal Dragon coming up in 15 seconds, so even though we mentioned 20 minutes for the Baron, game might be a little bit more accelerated by Rogue Warriors just challenging the second dragon.
But Haro's top side as well. They're not even going towards the dragon at all currently. They're trying really hard to get a playoff on Mouse. And now Mouse has got Ninja Tubbies and a Frozen Heart, and he's got himself a Kindle Gem. So if you're going to dive him as Haro and Ray, it's going to take a lot of effort to take him down.
And what a hilarious strategy from EDG to see them finally playing through a carry top lane against their former top laner in Mouse. So a little bit more salt in the wound for him as the Infernal Dragon is now taken by Rogue Warriors. He just has to rely on the team to make up for that.
Yeah, and it's just a point about what you're comfortable with. EDG definitely hasn't played with Ray as the forefront. He's primarily actually just been the team fight backup dancer, if you want to put it that way. So for EDG to try and go straight up hard into towards top lane, you can already see some of the decisions not being primed. For Gragas to be so heavily towards the top side when he doesn't have a Ryze. In fact, a lot of their team is actually just coming back from base. So realistically, you're just saying, well, Shen's going to join you with his ultimate. So that's actually an incredibly difficult dive to happen when they have no wards on the dragon. So timing was messed up. Rogue Warriors just take that for free.
And that puts Rogue Warriors even more in the lead as they are still 1,600 gold ahead. Not too much in the grand scheme of things as iBoy is trying to catch up by finishing off that Triforce to match SMLZ's 2 items in the mid lane. We've nearly got 2 items on Scout trying to match Doinby, who's sitting happily with that Luden's Echo. And even in the top lane, despite the CS advantage for Ray, he's not really been able to do too much for it outside of keep that Ornn busy. But given enough time, Ornn's going to become a massive tank anyways.
I actually think we're at a point in the game where Rogue Warriors could start looking for those team fights. We look towards Doinby's items briefly just there. He's got the flat magic penetration, and Haro is the only member of EDG that can really contest that with any kind of magic resistance. So he's actually at a point in the game at level 13, which means he has 5 points in his Q and his W, where he will one-hit carries. That's how strong he is at 19 minutes in.
Yeah, and it reminds me of last time EDG went towards, just trying to find any advantage, when they tried to put Ray on towards a bruiser and tried to play on split push side lane. They had a great early game around his Ribbon, but then obviously time went on and they couldn't clean up the game.
Target is Scout. He realm warps backwards away from the Abyssal Voyage to
Oh,
safety.
he's
And is now
got
teleporting and the Stand United, but they're chasing onto Mouse. He's got the Call of the Forge God, uses it for a 2-man knockup, gets himself the shield and buys a lot of time, but the bottom tier 2 was taken by EDG.
They're doing Baron on
and Rogue
Spawn.
Warriors, they are sitting on top of the Baron.
It should be a race just for either the inhibitor bottom lane. That's the only real trade you can make that makes any sort of sense.
EDG want to do both though. They're going to try and get here in time. You can see it's at half health and they're pushing the bottom lane. It'll be an inhibitor, but can Rogue Warriors make the play?
Scryer's Bloom. That's the attack over the wall.
Oh!
Shockwave has killed the jungler. The inhibitor turret is down, and Rogue Warriors finish off the Baron. Empowered recall to get back to base, and EDG will have to let that go. Ray doesn't quite have enough to finish it off. Backs it away.
Look, this is when you start pulling up the FlyQuest VODs and say, do it right if you're going to do it at all. If you're going to commit that many members bottom lane, at least go hard in the paint. They try and split it up. Gragas gets torn to shreds because of the ultimate from Misfortune, and they lose everything.
At the end of the day, that was a big bluff from Rogue Warriors. They said, you won't continue to push in the bottom lane. We're going to make you come over to us to the Baron. And I agree, EDG, they could have kept more members down there. That would have been a free inhibitor as a trade in the end. But what it is, it's a Baron and a kill for Rogue Warriors, only losing the turrets.
And I don't know how you're going to stop Rogue Warriors' push here, because just putting the, all the information down there, EDG could have tried to even get Nexus turret, just one of them. So that would have been a hard advantage bottom lane with a super minion being pounded down there. Well, you have a Camille who could split push. So while you would lose the Baron trade, you'd actually be better off in the long run if they can hold it down. EDG get nothing unless if Camille trying to backdoor that inhibitor.
Now we're starting to see how scary the Rogue Warriors composition is as they group up and start trying to break down that turret. Half health on a tier 2 with only a single minion wave, and here comes the cannon minion. Eyeboy is doing damage with that True Shot Barrage, was able to chunk it out, but the Ocean Dragon Rogue Warriors take tops them back up, and now the push continues. Mouse will group with his team, and that leaves Ray in a side lane alone once again.
The moment they see Ray on this lane,
It's all in.
they will go all in on this dodge.
It seems though it might be all in regardless.
Rogue
The wave
Warriors
is slowly getting cleared
They
out.
see him.
I mean, they're a predictable team, Rogue Warriors. You know full well that they see the Camille. They're going to try and make the plays happen if they can. But for what it's worth, the way EDG have navigated this counter push, Eyeboy has been hitting so many of his skill shots on carries and deterring them.
Ooh,
This is going to be the wave. Doinby doesn't have mana. It has to be now for Rogue Warriors.
There we go. Ooh, Arcane Shift out of the Shockwave. That's even a teleport coming in as Ray flanks behind them. Remember, there is no Shockwave. Doinby low health, low mana, flashes away, running for his life. The rest of our Rogue Warriors are going to fight over this. Already they've killed Scout in the front as Ray has died on the backside. Mako's going deep for Doinby. Finally, we'll get up to him as he's healed by Triumphant, saved by Kahlua. Rogue Warriors are the true 5-stack as EDG split and chase for the kills, and they are punished.
Just cosplaying Oliver Twist, they just wanted something. They wanted one damn kill, and they didn't even give it to them.
The smallest of health bars left for Doinby. He's able to get back to base, and he will survive. Can defend bottom while the rest of Rogue Warriors, they push forwards. SMLZ absolutely smashing Scout's health bar in that last fight. Opens the floor and gives them the free inhibitor.
And now EDG find themselves falling even farther behind. 3,500 gold. The next 8 minion waves are going to keep that mid lane busy, though. Now, if EDG can weather that storm, that does give a lot of gold into their pockets.
And here's the thing. One door that EDG was trying to open was in the poking strategy from Ezreal. That's how this fight kind of got started, was Orianna losing a lot of HP through to the Ezreal. Now, wonderfully so as we look through the replay, Orianna got out of there with the help of Tom Kench. The rest of them got shredded with the help of Misfortune Ultimate, and it just didn't work.
And what's important to note is that EDG flashed forwards to kill Doinby. They forced so hard to try and kill an Orianna that had no health and no mana. They could have taken the 4v5, but instead of taking that fight, they choose to get the quick kill, and that is what ultimately kills them in the end. SMLZ's ultimate hitting Scout is because he tried to flash and bind them down.
And the point I was trying to make with Ezreal being their key point in this game, getting off a lot of Qs in the poke, 2 Ocean Dragons for Rogue Warriors, so even that door is starting to close.
And you could see the effect of that regeneration, keeping Doinby alive throughout the course of that trade. One auto attack was all that it took from Mako. If he had just been half an instant faster, that would have been a dead Doinby and at least something. But now, Rogue Warriors are pushing up once again. They don't have Baron, but they don't quite need it. They're pushing up to a tier 2, and EDG, they might be trying to base race.
Nah, they got a recall, man. You can't base race against 5 members of Rogue Warriors. This is going to be a big play attempt from EDG.
Yeah, you can't tell them what to do. This is the only opportunity they have.
They finish and take the tier 2, pushing up to the inhibitor right now, and Rogue Warriors, they are going to call EDG's bluff yet again. Lots of bullets going to hit Haro as he makes his way back, but the inhib already being broken down. The turret has been taken, and it's 8 seconds for Rogue Warriors to make it back.
They should
They're going to
get
stop the ports.
They should get an inhib at least for free here. If they're able to stop ports, there's a chance they transit through the base to get a second, but Mouse has already returned. And so at the end of the day, that is an inhib trade, but when you really think about that, that's 2 inhibs gone from EDG. And that only really deters the last remaining inhib for Rogue Warriors to push, because they now have to push through supers.
That lane choice, bit of a tragedy, but something desperate for EDG to try to get back into this. Again, we know they're a mid-game control team. Their team fighting has been lacking lately, and Rogue Warriors bring that in spades as, whoa, there they go.
Here's a good call from Rogue Warriors. Push with your top lane, because the last thing you want is be pushing against a super minion wave across the map, because we already saw what strategy EDG is employing, sending out Camille to the top side anywhere that isn't where Rogue Warriors is. So now the super minion wave will only really just slow them down in trying to get the tower. At the end of the day right now, EDG need to find something else. They're going to try team fights, but you already saw what happened last time around.
It's going to be real tough for EDG as Rogue Warriors, again, they just stack up. They know they've got super minions in that mid and bottom lane, and now that they've cleared out the other supers, they take the final tier 2 of EDG.
Ray again.
Ray could be looking for the back door to try and take an inhibitor, but he's got no teleport, and again, it's 8 seconds to make it back to base.
He's just hoping that Rogue Warriors don't all in now, because now they only get vision of Camille and the inhibitor.
This seems like a desperate swing from EDG to
They're
try
not
to
going to
get
recall.
anything.
They're actually going to push you. You might see the Ornhorn immediately going to scare them away, scatter EDG. It's still a worthwhile trade if Rogue Warriors go for the 3 inhibs. Double supers is going to be massive against their opponents here.
That's the recall. Again, 2 supers have stacked up in the mid lane. They might even be able to push for a Nexus here as it's a Nexus turret. It's 30 seconds for Baron, and they have got complete map control.
A super minion just stopped Camille's base.
No.
She's not going to be here for this.
And it seems like Rogue Warriors know this. They push onto the Nexus turret. Smite brings it low, but the turret does go down. EDG, they are trading wildly just to get onto the board, and they are hemorrhaging.
This is it for EDG. They have to take the fight immediately or they just lose this game. Doinby running low on mana. SMLZ has been poked down. You can see EDG, they're going to try and prevent the supers from coming in. They bought themselves 30 seconds, and they might have been able to force their opponents away.
You can see what's making them a little bit more afraid of ending the game. Even though they have the Tahm Kench available, the issue is that you don't want SMLZ and Doinby getting flanked, and that's all EDG is doing right now. Constantly sending Ray and Scout inside positions.
And as the Baron spawns, Rogue Warriors will get a chance to complete a recall with Doinby and Killua. Hopefully to get him back with that Abyssal Voyage, as again, double super minions are going to start pushing in through these side lanes, and EDG are desperate to claim control over the Baron.
But towards that point, I think the concern here for Rogue Warriors is there is only one wave of super minions that were doubled up that are going to crash.
Yeah.
The mid lane inhib is now alive again in about 5 odd seconds. So it's just going to be these single supers now in the top and bottom lanes. But you can see the wave that is stacked. That is the furthest away point from Baron, and now is the opportunity for Rogue Warriors to just hit it immediately.
I don't know if you can take this.
Ray's going to lose.
That's a lot of damage. 190 damage. Attack damage with that.
He can't even teleport
Rogue
because of how much damage they deal.
They're turning onto the Baron. Realm Warp to get EDG behind them. Haro is deep behind enemy lines. I don't know if he's been spotted. There are pings onto him, question mark pings. Mako's on the far side. They're all around the Baron pit, but they're going to try to force the fight onto Eyeboy. Call of the Forge God. He flashes away.
Slowing down the time. Good job from EDG. Pulled them away from Baron. And Haro understands their only option is to go back to the Purple Worm.
He's doing his best to be a human ward. He knows he's got one job. Hands off the keyboard. Oh no, they're going to scout him out. The command attack Haro has been spotted. There's the slow with Dissonance. Shockwave will miss. He's going to try to buy some time here. There's a teleport from Ray to join up with his team in the Baron pit. Flawless tries to stop this as so much is being thrown to try and save Haro, but he's dead regardless.
Yeah. Get back, you animals.
Not going to be able to save him. Now Ray actually caught out as well.
Going over the wall with that hook shot means Flawless can get a few autos, but the jungler is dead. Baron stands in front of Rogue Warriors, and 2 inhibitors are still down. They turn onto it.
Still got to fight here. EDG, they have no choice. They have to take the fight. iBoy's going to have to pull out a heroic effort with Scout, but Rogue Warriors, they're grouped inside the pit.
That's the flash taunt. They all go in. Ray tries to get out of there. SMLZ backs out of the pit, fires across a hail of bullets as Mako in the low. And the Scout will try to pick up the Baron by Rogue Warriors. iBoy firing across. Killua goes down, and we'll be able to trade it over. Mouse over the wall as Ray gets back up. Shockwave pulls him back in. iBoy eats a headbutt. Scout's looking to follow it up. As you said, the snare. He's trying to go one against the world, but Rogue Warriors kiting it out as best they can. Mouse will end up going down.
These are long death timers. 50 seconds on Mouse and 25 on Killua. And while sure, iBoy is dead, so they can't actually just end up pushing out with their AD carry, but it is a great sigh of relief for EDG that they're even anywhere near close in this game.
Yeah, they're able to buy themselves a lot of time here, EDG, and time is exactly what they need. They've got the Rise scaling, they've got the Ezreal getting towards 3 items, now pushing for 4. And whilst they don't get the Baron, and there is still going to be Baron-empowered supers crashing towards you, if nothing else, they bought themselves a minute to 2 minutes. And EDG, if this was a 5v5, they probably win this.
Yeah, and just take a look at iBoy's position, because he understands where Misfortune is, cannot join the fight because of the flank from Camille. So iBoy pushes the AD carry away. He goes in a little bit too, because he sees his opportunity to jump in. Orianna really demolishes him once he's over the wall. That's what does him in. But I liked what I saw from iBoy in the team fight.
Already showing some great positioning improvement over the beginning half of that team fight, just getting flung over by that Shockwave. Now EDG turn towards the Ocean Dragon to deny the triple Ocean Drake to Rogue Warriors. That would make their siege nigh unstoppable and get them on the board for that first dragon. But it's 30 seconds before that final inhibitor respawns, which means no more super minions, and EDG are trying to reclaim control.
I will say that Essence Shift was something beyond the word aggressive, and I can't quite work out what that word would be, Raz, because he could have went backwards and lived.
That's
and
true.
I think if he survived, EDG could have had the possibilities to do something else, but I do respect the zest.
He went for the Raz play. I appreciate that.
I don't.
20% of the time it works.
Every time.
20% of the time, every time. Oh boy, but Ray, he's looking for the back door again. Spotted out this time as he clears out one ward, but Rogue Warriors right back down. They've still got the Baron buff for 90 seconds.
He's got a teleport.
That's actually Scout teleporting in. Ray is still sitting inside of the enemy base. He completed his own Shockwave onto 2. They found it. They're going to drop the bullet time. What could be the end time for EDG as they're running back to the fountain. The wave gets cleared out. Doinby looking for the kills. Finds one. Ray back up. He's got the ultimatum, but is knocked up. Doinby saved out of the ultimatum. And iBoy still firing across.
Dead.
Scout in the back line has died, and the Nexus is laying bare. Rogue Warriors simply pushing the team fight to EDG's Nexus. No more dancing around. Ray goes in, but SMLZ finishes it off. Rogue Warriors take game 1.
Trying to push them through, and one thing that was so crucial was the ward within the red side jungle that caught Camille out. That was the first time a ward was actually placed defensively to see Camille coming in for the inhibitor. So the moment she gets caught out, the fight gets pushed forward. Only one Nexus turret to defend the Nexus itself, so needed to recall early. Good play from EDG when falling behind, but easy pickings for Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, EDG were scattering themselves in an attempt to reroute Rogue Warriors, to force them into macro decisions they didn't want to make. And Rogue Warriors, they saw that, and they said, why would we do anything other than 5-man group as a unit when you have mismatched numbers? Take the engages, take the fights, and ultimately win the game from that. And a lot of this game, when you really think about it, was decided at bang on 20 minutes in the game, where both teams choose to make a big play. Rogue Warriors get the Baron and don't lose the inhib. That sets them up to succeed.
But even in that we were seeing EDG making these wild decisions to split a tier 2 as the Baron is left undefended on the other side of the map, to send Ray and Scout to try to backdoor the Rogue Warriors base when there's a 5 stack of Rogue Warriors battering down the base of EDG. Clearly they stuck and committed to the decision making. It nearly got them back into the game, but I don't think that's what we expected at all for EDG to be at that much of a deficit to begin with.
Yeah, the deficit point is definitely important, and I think the key to that was Scout at the end of the day. We needed to see him be able to get out of lane and move towards the side lane, specifically top side, since they were heavily investing in towards Ray, and they were finding it so damn difficult to get the kill on towards the Ornn. Ornn went so heavily in towards armor because he didn't have to worry about the rise for a good majority of the game. I would have loved to see Ray, if he got an opportunity to leave the lane, maybe get call for help from Haro if you need to be able to find that opening top side.
So the thing is, towards that point as well, I feel like from the moment they used the Herald bottom to empower Ray further, that could have been the mid turret gone. That could have been like what we were saying during the game, the opening up of Scout onto the map. And then Scout, instead of Haro, could have went to the bottom lane, or at the top lane, assisted Ray, I should say, in the side lane. And they both have teleport, so they can kill Mouse, they can rotate, help their team, and counterplay. But it was the opposite of that actually happened, and tragically, that was what opened the door to Rogue Warrior.
Yeah. Funny enough, that is a mistake that RNG found themselves in 2017, that they would so heavily invest towards the side lane if they find themselves with a Camille, that they would forget about the rest of the map. And so, in this game, there's a lot of times, and we mentioned the Rift Herald. In fact, I'm okay if you place Rift Herald bottom lane if you immediately move the Gragas and Camille mid lane so you can open up that tower. A lot of times they're like, actually, we're just going to chip this tower down. Camille could do that on her own anyways if she ever finds herself in side lane. But I'm going to help you because I'm a Gragas and I don't know what to do. So I would have really enjoyed it if EDG just used Camille's lead a little bit more liberally around the map.
Yeah, and that to exacerbate that even further, I think this is the first time in a long time where we can look at EDG and say they just played a game that wasn't completely focused around the bottom lane, around iBoy and Mako. They sent Haro top time and again. They used that Rift Herald top, just weren't able to convert that top pressure into anything else.
That was a question that we had with EDG when they picked up Ray. You know, they threw Mouse.
He's a carry player.
Exactly. They said for Mouse, of course, being picked up by Rogue Warriors, it meant that they can have the availability of picking towards a Jace, a Jarvan top lane. In this case, we got to see him play the Camille top. That's nice and all, and you have to see them play that a lot more often, practice in that one, because I think the practice wasn't there for it, and it puts Ray in an awkward position where he has that one game, and obviously it's like, that was poor. We couldn't support you properly. Now we're going to be playing tanks in the top lane a little bit more.
And with Ray, his most played champions in this split at the moment are Kennen and Darius. And I think both of those champions do a similar thing in the side lanes to the Camille, but they also have a bit more of a semblance when it comes to team fighting capabilities. Now, Camille still can team fight with the use of the ultimate for certain, but it's very obvious what a Kennen and what a Darius can do in a team fight, right? Press your R button, get resets, or press your R button and slice everyone to death. Whereas the Camille is execution heavy with the rest of your team, and I feel like that was a part of the faltering.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, take some notes off Amazing J. I think Amazing J, with Camille coming back into the meta, you find real comfort there because he gets advantages off the Camille when they play towards the top side. And he oftentimes, in fact, he only looks to commit in flanks for the team fights or looking mid so heavily that he never just tunnels in on the lane. And I think that's something that we would have liked to have seen for EDG.
Well, speaking of tunneling, we've actually got that fight in which we got to see EDG do just that in trying to chase down Doinby. It was finally Ray coming in for the flank, coming in for the teleport, but Rogue Warriors split EDG apart and take these kills one by one.
I want to see whose point of view we're looking at. Are we going to be seeing Orianna run her life away? No, we're not going to be seeing the real... Wait a minute! Take the camera away! We know what happens here!
Oh, 71 HP!
We get to see it again.
That's hilarious. I love it, no matter what. The strategy was straight through mid lane, but I guess the man who made that great escape ends up getting man of the match.
Killua was the clutch king, but Doinby was also the man hitting the shockwaves and dealing a lot of his team's damage. 43%. Now, Trundle, I think, barely crested over 1,000 in terms of the damage that he dealt. He wasn't really there to deal damage. He was there for the pillar, for utility. It was Doinby that had to hit it home. And it was also Rogue Warriors that got a lead pretty much bang on 20 minutes in the game with an Orianna that built mid-game and a Misfortune that built mid-game. So naturally, those two were going to put in most of the work, and they did.
A lot of onus of the composition had to be on Orianna to be able to zone the rest of the team because they didn't have a dedicated engage if Ornn had to play side lane. And so we got to see the zoning come through from Doinby, the damage he was able to land a lot of the times, and the protection he had on Misfortune whenever she got engaged on by the Camille. So really well done from Doinby.
As to be expected, Rogue Warriors know how to play around their carries. The question is, though, can they do that in Game 2? We're going to go ahead and take a quick break while we get that ready for you, but don't go anywhere. The LPL is going to be right back.
登峰造极，方可声名远扬。侠盗勇士自在威震四方。